And
Oh,
that's where I noticed this AI Law Librarians blog that they've just started.
yeah, Paxton I hadn't seen yet. These are all very interesting. Just testing some of the queries that I was using in other systems that are similar. The differences in the responses are just wild. I mean,
Yeah.
So in my former life as a firm like law librarian, my prior firm was one of the beta testers of Casetext Co-Counsel. So
Oh, really?
Mike, Andre is who you want to talk to. Mike's
I
pretty
know.
enthusiastic.
As I was saying, it's like this is my. That's where I'm bringing in the money right now. Comparing how I would draft the response and how the machine drafts the response,
Mhm.
and the assumptions that we make about what they're really looking for is kind of interesting. So yeah, we'll get rolling here in just a second. I just want to make sure I've got everything up that we should have up. It's nice to have that you guys in the same room together.
Yeah. Oh, Mike, I just laugh at myself. I'm like, why do I wait until Andre's in town to invite him to?
Yeah.
Turns out with technology, he could be joining us from Houston.
Definitely. I would be happy to.
I have an old mindset in some ways.
All right. We are recording, so we should be good to go. What should I bring up? I'll leave this up first. And Andre, I don't know, you're an avid watcher of the blog, but we asked what is the most interesting legal research question of the week. And I think we're all sharing these items in AI today. So I might have a couple of others, but I think that this is a great focus, and I'm glad to have you here. So let's get rolling. This is the Gray Paper Pod. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Mike. I am the founder and owner of Gray Paper Legal. And I'm joined today by some special guests. So Karen, before we introduce Andre, Karen, why don't you remind everyone who you are?
That's right. I do my little spiel. I'm Karen Westwood, director of the Hennepin County Law Library. And I'll let Andre introduce himself. We have a special guest today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andre Davison, and as of 3 weeks ago, I'm the new director of the Harris County Robert W. Haynesworth Law Library in Houston, Texas. So glad to be on with you both.
And very great to have you. What brings you to Minnesota? You're in Minnesota. You're sharing a room right now with, with Karen, which is very old school. What brings you to Minnesota?
So I, as a former firm law librarian, I served on the one of our, I guess I can say, the Thomson Reuters Information Professionals Advisory Board. So as I transitioned away to the public space, they were so gracious enough to allow me to serve my last year on the advisory board. So I was in Minneapolis for that on Tuesday through Thursday. And while I was here, I had the opportunity to meet Karen at the GLL breakfast at AALL, and did kind of tell her I was, potentially transitioning over to the government law library space, and when I was in town, that I would stop by and visit the Hennepin County Law Library, which I've heard such great things about externally within AALL, but also from my team at Harris County as well, the Haynesworth Law Library. So that's why I'm here today.
That's great. So glad to have you. I have to ask the ugly questions first, I think, because I'm just so curious to see what, were you out at Egan? We, all I'm saying is that this is a little bit off topic. I'm just curious to know what's
Right.
going on over there. The building's up for sale and
Right. So
just wondering if it's a shell now.
last year we were in Egan at the main TR campus, but as you know, they have put the building up for sale and they're moving to a new space, and so we were in Minneapolis.
Gotcha.
This year for the advisory board. So
Very
Mike used to
interesting.
work at, as a West reference attorney. So he is all over the Boolean searching. No, that was a while ago, right, Mike? Then he had a
Yeah,
career at
yeah.
the State Bar Association, and now it has his legal research and writing.
Still using my headshot that I got there many years ago. It's kind of sad. That was now 10 years ago and 30 pounds and
I'm sure you look the same, Mike.
yeah. Never grayed or wrinkled or anything. I still use it, it's well, welcome. So what we do here, Andre, at the Friday is ask what was the most interesting legal research question of the week. As our guest, I'll ask you that first. You can see I'm sharing a screen with what was shared with everyone. The AI Law Librarians blog and some interesting, speaking of Boolean, some interesting Boolean questions. But Andre, I'll ask you first. You're welcome to answer in any way that you please. What was your most interesting legal research question of the week?
Honestly, Mike, I haven't had any legal research questions this week because we at the Harris County Law Library on Monday we were fortunate enough to get a data fellow that started with us. The county, Harris County this year had 4 data fellows, and so we were able to secure one. So I spent my Monday with him, just showing him around the law library, which I'm fairly new to. And
what's a data fellow? I don't know.
Question. Yeah.
So a data fellow is this young man is actually, I think he's maybe a year or two out of college, graduated from college, and he's actually attending Berkeley, working on a data science master's degree in their School of Information. And what he's going to do with us is going to be able to take our statistics that we track manually now, and we're going to find ways to automate those statistics that we provide to our stakeholders, and be able to do some really cool things with some tools like Power BI to show metrics and to have a live view of our statistics. So typically when we gather that information, we're gathering it for presentation. But again, coming from my firm background,
I was gonna
dashboards and things like that. We want to be able to utilize his unique skill set to bring that information in. And so and we have such a great team at the Haynesworth Law Library that they handle all the reference questions. Now I have one of my colleagues did an interesting question about there was a a marriage that took place outside the country, and they were trying to file for divorce in the country. So we were trying to help our patron figure out the best way to go about that. So that was really interesting. One of my colleagues was taking a look at that. So we were looking within the Texas statutes and trying to, potentially find case law to or direct them in that way to see if there was any potential case law that they could look at that may help their situation. So it's funny. In my roles in the last few years at firms, I rarely do any research. I try to take on.
No, really.
If I see something interesting, I'll take on that research. And one interesting thing I did with Casetext Co-Counsel, the AI, I had and they told us to, play around with it, see what kind of results you get. So I have a cousin who she was trying to see if she could potentially get out of her lease in Texas, and they put the wrong dates on the lease. And so I threw the question into the AI to ask if the landlord mistakenly puts information, does that, invalidate the lease? And it gave me, some really interesting case law in Texas. And it was a wide range of cases, older cases and some newer, to say that potentially, yes, it depends on the situation. So it was really interesting in that regard. And, something that probably using a Boolean search would have taken me a couple of hours to get to, and it gave it to me in a matter of minutes. And I think that's what we found, is that the attorneys weren't solely reliable or solely trusting of the AI, but it did help them get to their research answer or their information that they can analyze. It did help them get to faster. So that was
I do think, my favorite so far has definitely been Casetext. Not entirely fair. It's not an objective. I haven't reviewed all of the platforms. I haven't, my sample set is pretty narrow, but I've had great luck with Co-Counsel finding, a case. We've talked about this before, Karen and I, on the podcast, from I think it was the District of Utah. So it would have taken me days to find that document because it didn't have a key number on it. It didn't have my key terms in it. I probably could have found it eventually. But the value of it was that it was not a citable. It was way outside the jurisdiction. It was trial court order. It wasn't a case, wasn't an appellate case. So it wasn't citable or usable. But it had the phrasing in it that I really liked. I'm like, this is the snarky little response to this oddball question. And a judge said it. So, right. I don't know how, I sent it along, and, I understand this is way outside, but the language is awesome. Right. And a judge said it. So for what it's worth, however you want to use it, I forwarded it on to my client, and it was really, really great. And it also found, quickly all of the other cases that I found using the traditional methods. I just felt like Co-Counsel did a really, really good job of finding the cases that I was finding and using conventional methods. So, I want to say, you don't have to apologize for the data stuff. We often argue that that's part of legal research here as well. And I imagine that's something that you bring from the private sector. Is there a big difference between your prior work and your new venture?
And what after a couple of weeks on the job, What I have told everyone who's asked how it's going is that my mission is the same to, provide relevant legal information to a different group of stakeholders, mainly going from, the attorneys and professional staff to 90% of my patrons being pro se self-represented litigants, but we also support the Harris County Attorney Office, which our law library is a division of, and local courts and, solo attorneys in the Harris County community. But I do recognize that there are some processes and procedures and tools that I think we can utilize from a data standpoint to, easily help us become more efficient in how we do things. So that's the exciting part. And then having the actual resources to do that with this data fellow, who's somebody who's, really immersed in data and data science. It's exciting for me as I come on, and they getting a new toy.
Yeah.
to,
that is awesome. Is that kind of thing? I imagine from the private sector, the need for business intelligence and data processing is maybe a little bit more obvious, present than it might be when you're delivering that to a different set of stakeholders, as you say. Is that requires some advocacy on your part, or are the government librarians? I understand Karen sitting right next to you. Is that something that requires a little advocacy, or is everyone on board?
Well, I mean, I think it depends from library to library and what the staffing levels are and so forth, because it does take energy and time, both to collect data, but more importantly, to do something with it and interpret it. And I was just chatting with my staff yesterday about how libraries tend to collect the easy numbers, right? Because that's human nature. So we collect circ stats and gate counts, how many people physically are in the library and how books circulate, because it's all automated. It's been done for years. And for many years, those were pretty good metrics of the kind of health and vitality of a library. But they're not anymore, especially post-pandemic. People aren't walking through the doors the way they used to. A lot of our queries come in via phone and email, and we don't, here at Hennepin County Law Library, we don't do a good job of capturing that and measuring it, other than saying, but we do all this other work. It's not so convincing to stakeholders. So I'll probably be talking with Andre about, right? So it's not just measuring things, but how you choose what you measure, what really is reflective. Sorry, our lights go off randomly here.
Yeah, if I don't move around in my office, it'll get
We were
dark
too
here.
still here. But back to Andre's first interesting question about someone married in another country, as someone who develops the collection here as well, right? We're like, we do Minnesota mostly, some federal, but international law and foreign law is really out of scope. Except that, then these kinds of questions come up, right? And as Houston does, Minneapolis and the Twin Cities has a pretty large immigrant population, and many things happen in different jurisdictions. But, we can't collect the law from the entire world or even figure out how to get to it online. It's just interesting. And then, of course, you get information in other languages. And the famous thing, if people have issues in Spanish-speaking countries, is this concept of a notary. Because in the US, a notary is very strictly just someone who witnesses a signature. But I think a notario in Spanish is a different concept. And we butt our heads up against that every once in a while.
It wasn't, two quick thoughts on that. I remember, I have fielded that specific question myself way back when as a reference attorney, and I can't remember resolve how that was ever resolved. I don't remember substantively what happened, but I remember those were long calls because it was difficult to find things. So I don't know, and I can't remember kind of what conceptually how we even approached that particular issue. I'd be interested to know what is it a parody, or what do we, is it that I'm blanking on just the US concept when you I think those were the terms we use, key terms to search, when one state recognizes the law of another state. Blanking.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Not parody, but
Full
comedy.
faith and
Credit.
something.
But there's a term I think I'm forgetting.
Well, we'll
using-
all blank on it here together. It's very good.
How did but those super challenging questions. It was, I don't know, with the addition of VLEX to Fastcase, whether folks are going to, whether that helps even to have
Right.
all of that stuff. But
the the marrying of those two companies with Fastcase being widely available within state bar associations, and then VLEX having all the international case law and the law in general. It was really, really interesting. It was something at my prior firm that we were taking a deeper look at, because we had international offices that were interested, of course, in the foreign materials, but also some of their technology they were introducing around AI, and that we had resources in the US that like it was similar to what Casetext, their original product, Kara, was, but they were looking for something like that similar in the UK, and that wasn't really a product. It wasn't really any of the larger vendors didn't offer that internationally. So I do believe the VLEX Fastcase will offer some interesting set of content that you typically don't find.
Yeah. Well, and my memory is that the answer to that question had to do with whether or not, if you're going to recognize the marriage, the law of the foreign jurisdiction had to be, I don't remember the exact language, but similar or equally liberal, or whatever it might be. There had to be some a good law in the other jurisdiction, which meant you had to find that law and examine the law in the foreign jurisdiction, which was a roadblock that we were sort of done, unless it was Canada or the UK, or there was some materials available, not to the extent VLEX has it. Of course, Fastcase and VLEX, the Fastcase purchased Judicata. Gosh, it's been how long ago now? I don't know, but they've been saying that they've been building their AI out, and I think that would be a super powerful connection there. If whatever they're doing, if they they've been sitting on Judicata for a long time, like please, which is fine. I think there's a lot of this stuff we were. I know Karen talked about. We'll get to Karen in just a second, but some of these tools that they're coming out all over the place, and we might eventually appreciate solid development of the tool from Fastcase and when it becomes available. But yeah, they've had it for a long time. But ultimately, with the VLEX material, the international material, and the AI processing. That could be a very powerful, very valuable tool ultimately, especially if you get it through your bar association membership.
Yeah, boy, that would be something.
If.
Yeah, yeah, if, I know. That's
Docket
right.
alarm, docket alarm, fast case, and VLEX, it's a lot of stuff. The
Yeah.
bankruptcy tool, but they've got a document automation service now. A lot of really cool stuff, but that is not part of
Yeah, those are all
subscription.
add-ons, yeah.
I don't pay for that with you have to do that separately, but
Yeah.
Karen, tell us about your most interesting legal research question of the week. I think
Well,
I
I
might
was
have
just,
it.
yeah, I was watching a few things float across my desk, and I noticed this new blog, the AI Law Librarians blog that just launched, I don't know, a week or two ago. And it's an interesting idea to start a new blog in this day and age, where I
Yeah.
sometimes wonder if that's really a thing anymore. But they were these authors who are starting this blog said they have things to say. They didn't want to really dominate other listservs or blogs that really had more to do with straight up legal reference. They just wanted to think about AI and law librarians and how law librarians can best position themselves to understand and teach about AI. So they just have a few columns up, but I knew you, Mike, would be interested in that. And then the other thing, though, that I really wanted to jump into is this new AI tool that will take a narrative query and develop a Boolean search out of it. And Mike knows this, that I was teaching an advanced legal research class at a local law school this summer. And so, of course, we talk about Boolean searching and super searching and all of that. And seeing this tool made me wonder, again, really, how much to emphasize learning Boolean searching? Is that still a time saver for people? Because in the past, it was more precise and it saved time. But, I know you, Mike, and it sounds like Andre have done a lot of experimenting with just AI queries. So my question is, how much do we continue to teach Boolean searching? So you guys go.
Yeah. You dropped the mic there.
I'm just setting it up. You guys answer.
I have feelings, but let me pitch to Andre first. What's your feeling about the use of Boolean these days?
It's interesting that came up because of the explosion of all these different AI tools that are really focused on natural language searches. There's going to be especially some of these tools are being given to students in law school, and so there I think there's a balance that you have to keep to be able to learn just with the presence of hallucinations and things like that. But this, I was reading over the Paston AI, and I think this was on the Geek in Review. Shout out to Greg and Marlene, who are colleagues in Houston. And I actually was on episode 51 of the Geek in Review. I guess on the show a couple of years ago. But I think there has to be a balance, especially with newer attorneys, to be able to really, as you mentioned earlier, Mike, kind of check to see if the AI is really on point, or is because the generative AI is a large language model, so it's really predicting language. It's not actually, it doesn't know what these cases are or how accurate that information is. And a Boolean key search is what we as law librarians are experts at. And as Karen said, she's teaching that. I think it's important to be able to put together that search. And I always used to tell the newer attorneys, because we would definitely get, calls from partners with associates that are, ran up a $10,000
Oh, boy.
bill.
Oh,
from
really?
one of the, large legal research providers, and I would use analytics tools, and we're going back to analytics to actually go in and to see what they were actually searching.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I could say, okay, you ran this, your initial search was broad, and then you can go back in and filter down instead of running multiple searches over and over again and incurring all these charges. So I think having that ability to be able to run a Boolean key search to get as precise as you can to the information. And then, of course, you've seen a lot of legal research platforms. You can run a search within a search to kind of narrow down your focus. So I definitely think it's important, I think, for, the time saving and, being, especially to more commonly asked questions, that natural language search would work, but more so on the transactional work or things like that. But on the litigation side, I definitely think Boolean searches are very helpful to know. But this tool right here is it's kind of a cheat code to to doing it for you, which I think is, I think it's helpful to be able to have that, especially with newer attorneys and novices, to be able to learn and be able to look and see, okay, this is converted this, and this is how you do the search. And I think it's sort of teaching the newer attorneys how to run those searches, because I had a partner at my not my previous firm, but my prior firm, and he ran his searches, and he would, wonder why,
Right.
he wasn't getting the results. And I was like, oh, you got to put a slash there, or
Yeah.
Put the
just to,
quotation marks
right,
around. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And so, and having that, and I was talking about that this week, having that cheat sheet of your Boolean terms there,
Yeah.
because if you don't do it as often, you don't remember.
Right,
So,
it's not like
right.
we're born knowing these.
So
What do you think, Mike? Are you still a lover of a Boolean search?
I mean, I use Boolean every day still. So I mean, it's not it's not as if but that doesn't mean I dislike natural language processing. I also do that every day, and I'll often, because I think like Casetext, just even the free search tool, I think their natural language processing works much better than it does on Westlaw. So I'll jump over there and just use the free version of that to get some sample results, and I'll jump back to Westlaw. We talked about this before. The exciting thing for me about Thomson Reuters acquiring Casetext is that you get both now, and that's the hope. If you've got to do a trust but verify, that is just extra work and more money. It's not a good solution necessarily unless you have them together, right? Because I'll often start with a natural language search, and then I'll use that to narrow my query. Precision is often the reason that's cited for why you want to use these, why you might want to use Boolean, and I think that's not exactly right. I think,
Right.
At least not for me, right? For me, who's got to deliver a research memo, and if somebody's wondering if I ever need to demonstrate, what I've done, if I just have a string of natural language queries there, well, that doesn't demonstrate any professionalism or reasoning, right? About what I've done. For me, it's valuable to demonstrate the logic, right? The reasoning behind the query. And that can be, because, Westlaw's got the key number system and all manner of other things. there's a lot that I can demonstrate about the logic of my query. So for me, it's about demonstrating the logic of the search, not just the being able to do it with some precision. You know, not because my idea of what the logical keywords are may be shorthanded. It's not more short-sighted. It's probably incorrect. That's why I use something like the key number system, even
Right.
within a Boolean query, because as I say in regularly, is that search and research are not the same things.
Yeah.
Research requires that we outline and demonstrate our method. And for that reason, my clients will ask for it, right? How did you find this, or where did it come from, or what was your logic behind I have to be able to demonstrate that. I save a research trail for each client, just in case, I miss something, heaven forbid, or, what was the logic behind it. I'm able to demonstrate that. And just as a professional, wanting that for myself as well, right? What are we after here? Often, it's a natural language search. The demonstrations are natural language search, and look at the case right at the top. You're done, right? Well, it's not. I get the Google piece of that, but that's as a researcher, that's not what we do. Our search and research are just not the same thing. There's another question. There's has it negatively been cited, or we need the keys. We want the citing references typically. What if that case is no longer good law? We're not just looking for the top 10 results.
Right.
We are researchers. And so for me, I think still we want Boolean for that purpose. I also brought up there's still places you do it, right? Even Edgar, you want to know basic Boolean,
Right.
search there, the test searching, the Boolean here, I believe, differs from field to field, right? If you're searching international class, it's a little bit different depending on which
Right.
which category you're searching. So having some familiarity with the Boolean is still valuable across, depending on where you are on many of these platforms.
You can even use some basic Boolean in Google. You can limit to certain types of domains, which really gets rid of a lot of junk, so.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks don't know that. They're just, picking through thousands of results. And yeah.
I don't know.
Right. That's my most common one, is to do the site restriction, right? If I would just want, .gov or .org and get rid of a bunch of self-promotional stuff, that can get you where you want to get a little bit quicker sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The other reason I think for doing, a research history or trail for the client, and this comes up for Andrea and I a lot working with the public, is sometimes they'll ask about one thing and you give them information about that thing, but it's a different term, because a layperson's term for something isn't always the legal term for it. And so it's helpful to be able to say, I started out with your term, but look, I found courts are usually calling it this. So let's use this term. And you can demonstrate that better if you've been kind of keeping track of where you're going.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. Sorry, Mike. Ironically, I think the spousal support term is different in.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
And
yeah. Maintenance.
Yeah.
Spousal support.
Right.
Alimony. Boy, no one uses that anymore, do they? But remember, Mike and I were just talking about this last week, weren't we? The phrase limitation of actions instead of statute of limitations.
Right.
Yeah.
Through us for years. Which one are we searching under? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dissolution instead of divorce, just all those terms. Yeah.
That's not a term I learned in law school or in practice or ever. The only reason I know it is because that's the index term that Thomson Reuters or Westlaw uses in the index. I had, I don't know, I don't know why, I'd never figured out why they chose that. I mean, typically you'd be looking at statute of limitations and go there. And
I know, and even in like movies and shows, they always talk about statute of limitations,
Right.
yeah,
but no one ever says limitation of actions.
there is a separate index for limitation of prosecutions. Maybe that's why
Oh,
they distinguish between the two. I don't know. Have you guys tried Paxton at all? Have you? I know you may be just a free trial that I jumped in and I tried the converter
yeah. How
here.
did you think it did? I didn't do it. I didn't do the free trial.
I mean, it works. I did just fair use of photographs as my
yeah.
search term, and this is tell me what you think about the. I don't know if you can see that. Is that too tiny?
I can see it. I would put fair use in quotes because that's a term of art, not fair with intuitive use, right? Wouldn't you do that?
I
Otherwise,
would,
it
yes.
looks pretty good. What do you think?
Right. And what's interesting when I look at the output from Paxton, it made me think back to my days at the firm where you saw a lot of young associates were clamoring for a case text because of their parallel search, where it would take natural language and then it would, in the background, it wouldn't give you that information, but it would, search like your initial search, and it would the photograph or picture or image, it would search all of those.
You have
And
that kind of thesaurus.
right,
of
exactly.
similar terms.
Yeah.
And then and give them that information, so it would actually save them the time. And I think that's what you're seeing, with the hype about the generative AI, is that it's going to be a time saver. But again, for researchers, and we want to have that history and that information to provide, because if it was if it was just easy as doing a natural language search, why would clients need us if they can run the search themselves?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a value and art to be able to formulate this. But this is pretty good, and like Karen recommended, definitely a tool that potentially someone would see as helpful and useful.
It would be kind of fun to run in a legal research class, right? Have students generate a Boolean search for several different searches using this, and then see if they can improve on that Boolean search, by making some modifications and running that. But yeah, definitely having that thesaurus sort of built in is super helpful, because as soon as you want to think of another word, you get stuck on the one that's in your mind, and it can be hard to come up with other terms.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know if I haven't tested this query yet, though. But you can copy the search string and just I ran this for Westlaw. Curious to know. Transformative, I think, is what they're after here, or comment or criticism or news. So there's not sure why it limited it to those terms, though it
was saying that these were
appreciate
elements of fair use, right? Down here, types of fair use we want to focus on. Well, that makes quite the assumption, doesn't it? Because I worked as an academic law librarian for a while, and ours was the educational use of material, which isn't even in there. So that's interesting that they've just made the decision that those are the types of fair use they want to focus on. They missed.
What I like about Paxton, it tells us why it's doing that.
Yes, that's really good.
Natural language searches, it'll cite to code, and which I appreciate. but these are the types of fair use we want to focus on.
Yeah. Well, maybe criticism would be the one that would apply in the educational setting. I can't remember, but yeah.
But
And
and
I
it's
guess it
straight
has
up
to,
to
right? It
the,
has to make some assumptions as to what you're looking
Right.
for, otherwise it can't run. So, but to your point, Mike, at least it tells you what it's doing. Then you can modify your query if what you really want to know is, can I use it in a course syllabus or something? Then you can just put it in there.
obviously there's no fielded queries here as well,
No.
so it's
Right.
not running in any of the Westlaw specific.
Right,
I
databases.
don't- but
And then it did prompt at the very end of that explanation. Paxton said you could limit this search by adding a jurisdiction
Mhm.
or other elements. So if I was a student, I'd probably think that was a sweet little cheat, right? To be
Right.
able to use that.
Code.
yeah. But yeah, interesting converter. And even case text has got, I think, the prompts for the
Mhm.
Boolean, and
Yep.
they haven't given up on the Boolean either.
Boy, remember the old days? This is my role in this, is to say, remember back when different vendors, platforms had Boolean searching, but it was super, super precise. So like all the connectors had to be in capital letters, or you had to use an ampersand, not the
Yeah.
word.
Getting
Yeah,
negative,
Andre,
yeah, you would get
you know,
no,
you get
no
all the
results.
stuff or
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
There are some things you still, I mean, even so, I mean, it's Boolean is Boolean. It's it is precise. So the where is the query here? We need to know what's being processed first and what's being processed last still. And
Right.
I think that's a piece that most people aren't thinking about when they're constructing their Boolean. Order of
Yep.
operation
Definitely.
is not.
Yep.
I don't think that's something I learned in law school even. I don't think
Right.
that, I mean, we were
Yeah.
trained in Boolean back in the day. I was,
Yep.
so it was an interesting transition. I learned how to shepherd's a case in the books.
Right.
Mike, you just don't look old enough for that.
Yeah.
I did. I learned that, but I have gray hair.
And Mike, it's funny. I mentioned that I don't do as much research. So when I did get some really interesting research questions, I would call the Mike Carsons of the world at the reference attorneys, and because
You probably
they
talked.
and have them, start that search off, and then,
Yeah.
as Karen mentioned, go in and okay, maybe this is,
Mm.
not what I want, and add to that information. So this Paxton is like kind of helping you, saving you on the phone call or
Right. Right. The
That
first step.
that is
Yeah.
so funny you say that, because that the podcast that Karen sent along, I'll make sure that that's in the show notes as well. It said exactly the same thing. Don't want the reference attorneys to lose a job or anything, but this probably, unless you're coming from the large law firms or the reference attorneys are great. I used to work there, but you might have to wait. Right?
Right.
Depending on
Right.
what kind of customer you are, you might have to wait to talk to a
Yes.
reference attorney.
Yeah, your comment about the order of operation is
Yeah,
interesting.
very
Like, I know it's a thing and it's important, but I don't really know the order of operators. And I'm rarely doing such a complex Boolean search that it matters. But I do notice once in a while, I'll do a long Boolean string and I'll get results and I'll think, I bet I could do better. And then I'll either just play around with reordering things, or then I'll look it up and be reminded what order is this being read in.
Right.
But it isn't something that's top of mind, where I think if you were answering the phone and doing those questions all day, you'd for sure get that memorized. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even think about it on Westlaw anymore. And is always
Yeah.
processed last.
Yeah.
But then when you get into like number operators, this one did within 2 of use. I guess maybe the use was fair. I mean, I agree it's a term of art. I don't think it would ever say that. I would put this in quotes as well, probably, but you can force the order, right? You can do a +2.
Yep.
And that triggers a different order of operation as
Yep.
well. I actually
for
can't
sure.
remember whether, but I think in almost every system, they will always process what's in the parens first.
Well, I think that's my workaround is I just throw everything in
Yeah.
nested
Right.
parentheses and then I
And I
have a
couldn't
better
tell
sense.
you
Yeah.
order of operation on fast case or Edgar or case text.
Right.
I don't know it. So
Yeah.
and I think that's why you see these all nested in parens.
Yeah.
Who says law librarians don't love math?
I know. Does this not
Yeah,
remind you of ninth grade algebra or what? Eighth grade?
What is
whatever
the
year that was.
please excuse my dear Aunt
Yeah.
Sally? Is that the
Yes.
yeah. the mnemonic for order of operation when
Right.
you're doing math, right?
Yes.
1 + 3 - 2 equals, you have to
Right.
remember there's a right and wrong answer to those questions.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division.
Yep.
Yeah.
Addition and subtraction, yep.
These
I'm
are
a
some
math
very-
guy too, so
Oh,
that.
yes, man, look at that. Just rolled off the tongue.
Yeah, we have delivered data analytics to clients. So, I think I'm going to change my partner Armin's. I think I'm going to change his title to what was it? Data fellow.
A data fellow, there you go.
Put that
You're
on
in
his
shop,
business
Mike, you can
cards.
name people whatever you want.
Whatever you want, right? It's just the 2 of us. We can data fellow. That's pretty nice.
That's great.
I have a data fellow too.
Everyone wants to be like Harris County.
So tell me, we are probably at the end of time. It's super nice to meet you, Andre. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
No, this has been,
Usually wrap by just saying what we're looking forward to in the next week. You got anything interesting coming up, Andre?
I'll get the lights.
my parent grabs the light. No, definitely, taking everything that I've experienced this week and starting to kind of map out, some of the ideas and concepts that, even what we've discussed on this show and how we could definitely utilize it to better serve our patrons. So, the first thing I'm gonna sign up for a Paxton account and really take some queries and some interesting research questions that we have and throw them in here and just to see, because I think this is really teachable, especially for our younger law librarians.
Yeah.
As well. Teaching them the art of the Boolean search. It's an art to
I
be
love
able to
this
do it.
art, yeah.
Yeah. And so doing that, and then also taking a look at what's next on the generative AI front. I think, because of my prior experience with CoCounsel, but being able to take a look at the other different products, because there's, as I mentioned, an explosion of new products coming out every day. So taking a look at the landscape, and our team and I kind of talked about, I think Rod Hall, who's our associate law librarian, mentioned that generative AI won't come to public libraries for another 8 years. He said he heard that.
Oh my.
But being able to, find ways and, helping us get to things faster is, I think, the best way we can utilize it. I don't think it's ready to be in the hands of our patron because,
Yeah, maybe not.
but
Yeah,
how
but
our teams can utilize it to make life easier for our patrons is really what I'm looking forward to. So
I mean, I have to imagine that the public law librarian patrons stand to benefit more than any other community from these new tools.
right, I went to
With some guidance, right?
yes,
Yeah.
definitely some
Yeah.
guidance, some guidelines. I spoke on a session on generative AI, and I used the old Spider-Man, Uncle Ben adage, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think, these are some powerful tools, but you have to really, know your risk and
Yeah.
examine where
Yeah.
you go into using. But there was also a session at AALL with Pablo Arredondo, who's one of the founders of Case Tags, on and I think it was Jeff Pfeiffer from Lexis, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, from the California Innocence Project, how they were using co-counsel that allowed them to, be able to help more people because they just didn't have the bandwidth to take on cases. But I think he mentioned that, case co-counsel allowed, saved him 10 days just going through discovery and information that would allow them to take on more clients. So I think there's, definitely a, use cases that we can apply, these new technologies to help us become more efficient and help us to be able to serve more of our population. And then that's where the the data and the quantitative and qualitative data comes in, is you look and identify these trends and say I need to go into this market and be able to market our services to this community. And so that's the exciting part about it for me. That's what I'm looking forward to. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much. Karen, what's on your
Well,
what's on deck for
yeah,
you?
so Andre is going to solve all the problems of the world next week, but I have immediate physical things coming up. So at around noon today, John Carney,
Yes.
forensic guy, is going to talk about use of I can't remember now. I think it's new uses of data forensics in both civil and criminal litigation. And he's done a version of this for us, a number of times in the past. And every time he does it, I want to destroy all of my technology and go live in a cave somewhere because
No, I know.
just all this data that you can get that anyhow. But it's always good. People really enjoy his presentation. So I'm sure we'll have a couple of hundred folks online watching John. We tend not to put those as on-demand CLEs because if you go on demand, they have to stay live for 2 years and that space changes so rapidly.
Yeah.
So we just try to get them in every 9 to 12 months to give us an update. So that'll be good. This afternoon, our outreach coordinator, Marlena, is going out to one of our public library branches in Brooklyn Park to hang out at a table and just kind of try to raise awareness both of public library staff and patrons coming in about the law library and that we're open to the public. And then tomorrow, she's going to be in an Open Streets event. Are you familiar with Open Streets, Minneapolis?
Yeah. We participated here at my offices at the Center for Performing Arts. So yeah, we've done Open Streets.
So are you in Lindale? Did you do Open Streets Lindale?
That was the closest one last time.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
So she's going to be on Broadway in North Minneapolis. So Open Streets is this, I'm not sure what this nonprofit group, I think they're just called, I don't know, Streets, Minnesota Streets or something. Anyhow, they pick I think 4 to 6 chunks of major streets over the summer,
Yeah.
and they block them off to traffic and people show up in bikes and walking. And if an Open Streets location is near a public library location, often the public library will go out with a table and little freebies
Yeah.
and story time and stuff like that. And so if the public library is going to be there, then the law library pops up with them. So Marlena will be out at Open Streets
Oh,
tomorrow.
that's
And it sounds like the rain's going to move
Yeah.
away and it's going to be a beautiful day.
Yeah,
So she'll be up in
those are
Virginia.
fun. I mean, there's music and there's food and
Yep.
the vendor, the local businesses open up. So yeah, it's very cool. When they do it on Lindale, Lindale is a super busy street.
Right.
It's,
Yeah, they
so
do them on these really highly trafficked streets,
Yeah.
Lake Street and University. And for the law library, it's a chance for a lot of exposure for us because we're so invisible to so many people.
Yes.
And we get very few legal questions, right? People are there to have a snow cone and a swell time. But we hand out lots of little flyers and say, did you know there's a public law library in Minneapolis that's open to you? And so it's a good chance for exposure, I think.
Snow cone and a swell time. I like that's a
Okay, that's me. I don't know what other people are out there for. What's coming up for you, Mike?
Next week I've got a CLE with Clio on the document automation side. We're talking about how to use document automation for litigation, PI, specifically personal injury attorneys.
Oh,
So
sure.
that'll be fun. So anyway, this building is the one, not the one that I'm in, but the one it's connected to, turns 100 years old this week. So
Really?
the Center for Performing Arts is in this converted convent that was constructed in 1923. So
Oh,
CFPA put together a nice programming event on the 23rd, which I'm excited to participate in. I'll be here. So I'm in my office is in the new building, but we're connected to the convent that's across the skyway here.
so speaking of the art of Boolean, Mike interacts with artists all the time because his office is in the Center for Performing Arts. So Mike, I'm looking forward to your perhaps your interpretive dance of the art of Boolean searching.
Nobody wants
I'll
to
be
see
there. No, I want to see it.
it.
I would come back for
Yeah.
that, Mike. To see
Yeah.
that.
Oh, right. Well, then, if I can sell tickets, yeah, for sure.
You can charge a lot for that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. It was a real pleasure to have you. And you're all welcome back, Andre, at any time. Join us. You're on the official list of friends of the pod. You'll get my email regularly to join us anytime you can make it. Be very happy to have you back.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good week, Mike.
Have a
Yeah,
good
you
one.
too. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.